Children, today we will do the revision of a first chapter, a period of transition. Here the word transition means change from one era to another, means change from medieval period to modern period. In this chapter, we will study the meaning of Renaissance, what were the causes of Renaissance, its features and impact. Then we will see what discoveries were done and which all new places were explored. We will also see about the reforms that were held in the society during the 16th century, its meaning, its impact over the society, and who were the main reformers and what was their contribution towards the society. After this, we will study about Industrial Revolution, its meaning, reasons behind the Industrial Revolution, major inventions and its impact, and at last we will study about imperialism, meaning, causes and its impact. Now children, historians have classified history into three parts, or we can say they have divided the history into three parts. First is ancient, which you have studied in class 6th, then medieval in class 7th and modern in class 8th right now. Now we come to sources. Children, whatever we have studied in history or whatever we are studying right now in history, all the information we get to know from the sources. The historians, they collect the sources, then they try to analyze the sources, and then they come to the conclusion. Therefore, historians have divided the sources into two parts. First is primary and the another is secondary. Primary sources are oral histories, objects, artifacts, photographs, documents, etc. Secondary sources includes any accounts, records, the books you read in a library, and even the textbook that you read right now. Now we come to the Renaissance. Renaissance meaning revival of art and literature in Europe. Children, Renaissance was a cultural movement which began in Florence, Italy. This movement influenced literature, philosophy, art, science and religion. Now, there were causes of the Renaissance, that why this Renaissance started or why this Renaissance occurred. So the first cause was fall of Constantinople. Constantinople in 1453 CE, the Ottoman Turks, they attacked and occupied Constantinople, which was the capital of Roman Empire or the Byzantine Empire. Due to this, many Greek scholars, they took shelter in Italy. Second was a rise of nobility. An increase in trade led to the emergence of a new class of nobles. Then discovery of new routes. New routes were discovered, new lands were discovered during the Renaissance. Then crusades, the holy wars which are known as crusades, they were fought. This brought Europe in close contact with the Arabs. Then invention of the printing press. Invention of the printing press played an important role in Renaissance. Johannes Gutenberg, he invented printing press and it gave a quick movement to the Renaissance. Now we come to the features of Renaissance. So the first is humanism. Children, at that time people were taught not to think about the world but to completely concentrate on God, to think about God. But the humanists, they had a different perspective, they have a different view. They shifted the focus from God to human affairs. Next is rationalism. The Renaissance thinkers, they believed that everything has a reason and everything has a right to question. They believed that whatever is happening around in the world, there's a reason behind it and everybody has a right to question about it. Next is scientific spirit. At this period, scholars they tried hard to find scientific explanations of things by observations, by experimentations, and then they used to come to the conclusion. Now, spirit of inquiry. Now the people they begin to question, they discovered the places and they explored the unknown. Realism. Realism was seen in the paintings when the artists they started for the voyages, when they started discovering the new places, they explored the new lands, then they started putting them into their paintings. They started painting them. The actual beauty of the world they started painting. Now we come to the impact of the Renaissance. The impact of the Renaissance was for the first time scholars started writing in the local languages. The vernacular language which was spoken by common people. There was a revival of art. The city of Florence produced great artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo and Raphael. You can see the picture on the right side of Raphael. Then Michelangelo's statue of Petra in Rome is a famous example of Renaissance sculpture, the picture which you see below. And important features of Renaissance architecture were rounded arcs, domes and tall Grecian pillars. The buildings they used to be constructed with the arcs and domes. And this Grecian pillars, arcs and domes, this style was known as Greco-Roman style of architecture. Now we come to age of discovery and explorations. This was the time when new discoveries and explorations were done. Discoveries of new lands such as India, China and America was discovered. Motive of the explorers was to gain wealth, increase power in Europe, increase opportunities for trade, spread Christianity, to build European empires in different parts of the world. Because the explorers they thought that through these explorations they will increase their wealth, they'll get more wealth, they'll increase their power in the Europe. Then besides this they will get more opportunities for trade and business, and they can spread their religion, Christianity also, to the different parts of the world. The explorers they came basically from England, Portugal, Spain and France. Then was Reformation. Reformation comes from the word reform, which means making changes in something to make it correct or acceptable. The main reformers were Martin Luther, Ulrich Zwingli, John Calvin and King Henry VIII. Martin Luther, he was from Germany, Ulrich Zwingli was from Switzerland, John Calvin, France and King Henry, England. These all people did Reformation in these 4 different places. Now we will see what was the impact of Reformation. So ancient religious values were set aside after the Reformation. Earlier the churches used to govern the politics, but after the Reformation the king or the government used to rule the state. Churches did not had any right over the state. Scientific discoveries flourished during the Reformation. Churches was divided between the Catholics and Protestants. Banking, financing, new ways of trading began. Now we come to Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution began in England in 18th century and later to the other parts of the world. Industrial Revolution transformed the agriculture-based economy into manufacture-based economy. Means earlier the people they used to do agriculture, they were completely dependent on fields in agriculture. Now the people they started working in the factories, so the economy also was transferred from agriculture to manufacturing based economy. The term Industrial Revolution was first popularized by Arnold Toynbee. Now, why did the Industrial Revolution begin in Britain? What were the reasons behind it? So, the first was the enclosure movement. The second was availability of coal and iron. Coal and iron were the essential resources for the Industrial Revolution, which were available in Britain in a plenty during that period. Next was transportation. The steam engine, which was invented by James Watt, it rapidly improved the transportation system. Goods and people could be carried faster from one place to another. Then, vast overseas market. Britain was a big colonial power at the time. The colonies of Britain in India and Africa gave it a huge market for its finished products. Then, stable government. The stable government in Britain resulted in the stability in administration. Traders and manufacturers could now work freely. They were able to work freely. Then Britain's prosperous middle class, the rising class of entrepreneurs, businessmen in Britain, they invested in the new business and factories. The merchants, they also began to sell machine product goods in Britain and to the rest of the world. And last is new inventions. Various inventions took place at the time which went on to industrialize Britain. Now next we come to the impact of industrialization or impact of industrial revolution. So due to the introduction of machines, production increased. It gave a way to factory system. With industrialization came urbanization. The people, they started moving from rural areas to the cities in search of work. Earlier they were living in the villages, in the rural areas, they were working in the farms, in the fields. But now they started going towards the city to work in the factories as a labor. Then imperialism. Imperialism means one country's domination of the political, economic and social spheres of another country, or a policy of extending a country's power and influence through colonization. Now, what was the impact of imperialism? So, the Europeans, they began to explore trading opportunities in Asia. The British and French emerged as the major rivals for control of the trade in India. They tried to do control over the trade in India because children, initially British and the British people and the French and the Portuguese and the Dutches also, all four of them came to India for business, for trade. They did not come here to rule. But gradually, when they found India a rich country and they found the frictions between, or we can say the conflicts between the kings, Rajas, Maharajas, Nawabs, then they got an opportunity to rule over India. The British also made inroads to Burma. Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka, was first controlled by the Portuguese and then later by the Dutches. The Dutches, they surrendered to British in 1796 and in 1802 Ceylon was made an official British colony. So in this chapter we have seen everything about the industrialization, about Renaissance, about imperialism, and we have seen what were the impacts of it, what were the reasons behind it or the causes, and how did all these things affected the society. Thank you.